If you haven't drafted yet, target these players in your draft. But if you've already finished a couple drafts like I did in the Flock League, well, now is the time. The grind set begins. You don't wait to play fantasy until the NFL season starts. We're trying to take advantage of your league mates now, and we're going to buy low on these 7 players before the season even begins. Starting off with the wide receiver from Green Bay. I believe he's going to emerge this year. That is Matthew Golden. Man, the drumbeat is getting loud for Mr. Golden. I mean, this is just one small example from Jordan Schultz. He talked to someone in the organization, says, Green Bay isn't a team that uses a round 1 pick on a wide receiver. And when they do, you know, they saw something. And then in an interview with Kevin Clark, Jordan Love, his quarterback, was asked, who's the most impressive newcomer? And instantly Jordan Love said, that's Matthew Golden, without hesitation. He goes on to say he's going to be a stud, aggressive hands, smooth route runner. He's got speed. And ask yourself, be so for real for a second. What did the Green Bay Packers desperately need in their wide receiver room this season? They needed reliability, specifically from catching the damn football. Last year, the Packers had the 3rd most drops in the entire NFL, only behind the Browns and the Jets. And that frustrated Matt LaFleur, rightfully so, to the point of no return. It frustrated him so much that this organization decided to break a 2-decade trend of not taking a receiver in round 1, and they did that with Matthew Golden. LaFleur said Matthew Golden has elite hands, and that's going to help this team with all the drop issues. I agree with Matt LaFleur there. We've seen Matthew Golden's tape. He had some of the best hands in the class, over 72% catch percentage, contested catch rate of 61.1%, a pure hands catcher, the opposite of Dontavion Wicks, the opposite of Quentin Johnston, which is something that this offense desperately needs. Guys, don't let the Jags on this team stop you from drafting what could be the wide receiver 1 this year on this team. Jaden Reed, quality player, okay? But outside of that, Dobbs, Wicks, Hardman, Heath, Christian Watson, who's out for most of the season. These guys are all Jags. I don't think it's crazy to say that Golden could end the season as a wide receiver 1 there. And by the way, a way under discussed topic in Green Bay, what if the Packers throw more in 2025? Fantasy Points data notes that the Packers posted a plus 3.6 pass rate over expectation in the 5 games with a healthy Jordan Love. That would have ranked 7th highest in the NFL. In the other games, when Jordan Love wasn't healthy, a negative 8.2% pass rate over expectation, which would have ranked dead last. The number 1 mistake that you can make in fantasy football from one year to the next is to assume that everything like last year is going to be like this year. Everyone makes the same mistake, but things change, and we could see the Packers throw the ball a little bit more after drafting a receiver in round 1. So if you've already drafted, here are some trades that you could get done. So trade him for a lower level starting quarterback like Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray is a fine starter, but this is a type of quarterback you can probably replace off the waiver wire. How about Brandon Ayuk or Marvin Mims? If people aren't realizing how long Ayuk could be out, you can maybe trade away him for Golden. And then how about sending away Terry McLaurin if you can get Golden? Here, someone got Chuba Hubbard. These are real trades in real leagues, by the way. We have a database on the Flock site that shows real trades across hundreds of thousands of different fantasy football leagues that have happened in real time. Okay, a running back that I am trying to trade for everywhere. I actually drafted this guy in the Flock League, Zach Charbonnet. Look, there is a non-zero chance that Charbonnet could be the guy this year. I know that sounds crazy, but things are getting spicy in Seattle. And as you know, Walker is currently dealing, he's managing the foot injury, kind of in and out of practice. He's managing the foot injury, and that is forcing the Seattle Seahawks to think about their running back room a little bit differently. Recently, Brady Henderson, who covers the Seahawks for ESPN, released an article specifically about this backfield in Seattle. And one of the key takeaways in that article, here's a quote. While no one with the Seahawks has publicly acknowledged that the RB1 job is up for grabs, Walker's ongoing availability issues and the way Charbonnet continues to impress the organization suggests that the Seattle backfield could be more of a timeshare than a typical starter backup arrangement. Now, I know we hear this every offseason, but you have to keep in mind, Walker has no long-term security in Seattle. Is this organization thinking differently? New offensive coordinator. Walker is a free agent in 2025, right after this year, which leads me to believe that if he can't stay healthy, this team is going to try and look beyond Ken Walker and see what Charbonnet can truly give them. And we know when Zach Charbonnet starts as a running back for the Seahawks, he's one of the best running backs in fantasy football. Locked and loaded top 12 guy each and every week as a starter. In fact, Last year, 6 games as a starter for the Seahawks, over 19 points per game, 19.2 PPR points per game. Only 4 starting running backs scored more points per game than that in 2024 last year. Those names were Saquon, Gibbs, Bijan, and Henry. Do not sleep on Zach Charbonnet. Look, if you didn't get the chance to draft him like I did in the Flock League, then buy him as a handcuff. And if he ends up as a handcuff, okay, no harm, no foul. So here are some real changes that happened in real leagues. Someone sent away J.K. Dobbins. I'm fine to do that. I think Harvey's the guy there long term. If you can send away like a Kareem Hunt, this is the thing. Like, people are willing to send away like whatever guy they randomly took in like the 10th, 11th, 12th round for Charbonnet. All right, wide receiver. I think this guy is really undervalued. That is Courtland Sutton. Last year, Courtland Sutton was from week 8 onwards, averaging 18 PPR points per game. That was 10th best amongst wide receivers. That's a huge span from week 8 onwards. He was top 15 in averages for targets, target share, receptions, receiving yards, receiving touchdowns in that span. And in that same span, he had higher averages than A.J. Brown and Garrett Wilson in targets, receptions, receiving yards, and receiving touchdowns. He was a dominant receiver, and he was just as good as those alpha names. And then this team gave him an extension to be their alpha, 4 years, $92 million extension. He's now a top 12 paid wide receiver. That's overall, not annually. And Bo Nix is emerging as a superstar. You should hear Sean Payton. I know it's not uncommon because he always does this, but you should hear him talk up Bo Nix. This guy thinks he could be the next Drew Brees. But last year, as a rookie, from week 5 onwards, Bo Nix was top 8 in completion percentage, adjusted completion percentage, passing yards, passing touchdowns, and NFL rating. Imagine what he could do in year 2 with Sutton now secured long term. Here are some real trades that have happened in real leagues. So, for example, someone sent away Zay Flowers and a 1 quarterback team start 8. I personally prefer Sutton over Flowers, especially with the way those offenses run. Someone sent away, maybe, shout out to Nathan from Domain, maybe whoever values Judkins like he does, you can send away Judkins away for Courtland Sutton in your leagues. But look, the comparison tool I just showed you guys to compare Sutton, A.J. Brown, and Garrett Wilson, I use this tool all the time for my own research, and it is one of the many tools you get on the Flock Fantasy site with a 2025 season pass. When you use the promo code LAND, it's only $34. That's about $1.70 per week for the entire NFL season. You get season-long access to my rankings, in-season, weekly rankings, rest of season rankings. You get access to start, sit, trade question vouchers so I can help you on my live streams, access to our draft guide, all the draft guides on the website, and access to be a part of real live land community leagues. Our draft guide just updated, some massive updates for you guys, and rankings are being updated every couple days, so you're ready to go in your drafts. Check out the pinned comment. All right, a tight end that should be drafted higher, I think, this year, but is being disrespected, maybe because of age, I don't know, but George Kittle. My tight end 3, most people's tight end 3, but where he's being drafted compared to like the Bowers and the McBrides, that's where I think there's a disconnect, okay? He could finish higher than those two guys. He could finish higher than Bowers. He could finish higher than Trey McBride. In fact, last year, he averaged more points per game than both of those guys, than Bowers and McBride, as well as more receiving yards, receiving touchdowns, yards per target, yards per route run. He averaged higher in those categories than the great Brock Bowers and Trey McBride. So I guess the only reason that he's like a round or two cheaper than some of these guys is his age. Really? Is that what we're doing here? San Francisco, by the way, they're struggling to find available wide receivers, so he should be a focal point of the offense again in 2025. In fact, it's gotten so bad in San Francisco that they had to go out and trade for Sky Moore. Yes, that's right. You heard that. Sky Moore was traded for on purpose by an NFL team. Well, Ayuk is dealing with a knee injury. Jennings has a calf injury. Watkins has a high ankle sprain, and Robinson is suspended for being a little bit of a knucklehead. In fact, the only healthy wide receiver on this team is currently Ricky Pearsall, who we love, slick Ricky Pearsall. But this offense should have a big turnaround in 2025. They're projected to be one of the better offenses in the NFL, projected for the 3rd most points per game, according to ESPN Mike Clay. And if you look historically at Shanahan-led offenses in San Francisco, typically they are dominant offenses. Look at their average points per game and yards per game under Shanahan in the last 3 seasons. Do you see an outlier? To me, the outlier is 14th in points per game last year. Obviously, CMC went down with the injury. Ayuk went down with the injury. I think George Kittle is going to lead the way in an elite offense, and you should go trade for him, all right? Don't be afraid to trade for him. Don't be afraid if you have Bowers to do a 2-for-2 deal where you tear down from Bowers to Kittle and get an upgrade somewhere else. I really think that's going to be winning a lot of people leagues this year. All right. I think this is the best quarterback to trade down from if you spent like an early pick on an elite quarterback. That is Dak Prescott. Perfect tier down quarterback. We'll talk about trade ideas here in a second, but I genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, believe that Dak Prescott could be this year's Joe Burrow. He could be discount Joe Burrow in 2025. I want you to think about it for a second because the Bengals and the Cowboys situation are not all that different. Last year, the Cowboys, their defense was truly atrocious, 31st in points allowed per game, 28th in yards allowed per game, very similar to Cincinnati. And that forced their offense, just like Cincinnati, to throw the ball a lot. They were third in passing attempts per game, top 10 in passing yards per game, even though Dak Prescott missed a lot of the season. And what have they done this offseason? Well, in the first round, they drafted an offensive lineman. And then they traded for a talented wide receiver in George Pickens. And in a draft class full of stacked superstar running backs, they did nothing at the position for 4 entire rounds. And then they drafted a running back in Jaden Blue, known for pass catching. Everything they've done this offseason tells us that they want to throw the ball a lot, or they're going to have to throw the ball a lot in 2025. And let's not pretend that Dak Prescott hasn't shown real upside in the past. He's been top 7 in fantasy points per game in 4 out of the last 6 seasons, and he's been top 5 in 3 out of the last 6 seasons. And remember, in 2020, when he started off hot as a quarterback 1 in fantasy, do you guys remember that? Well, that was the year that Zeke Elliott started his decline, so the run game wasn't good, and it was the first year of the CeeDee Lamb Amari Cooper combo in Dallas. I would argue personally that this is the best wide receiver room Dallas has had since that season for Dak Prescott. So don't sleep on the guy. I think he's primed to be a fantasy star this year. So here are some ideas to trade down to Dak Prescott. So if you drafted Joe Burrow, let's say 4 rounds earlier, can you turn Burrow and Aaron Jones, for example, into Dak and Kamara? What about Mahomes? Did he go high in your league? Well, can you trade, Mahomes and Pollard for Dak Prescott and Amarion Hampton? In some leagues that's possible, in some leagues it isn't. That's just a basic guideline. Basically, can you go from Dak Prescott, to a higher tiered quarterback, quote unquote, to a Dak Prescott and upgrade at a secondary position? All right, a wide receiver. This should be no surprise to anybody who's watching my channel. I wonder what the pulse is now because we're going to talk about Deebo Samuel. Every single time I've talked about Deebo Samuel in a video this offseason, I've talked about how much I loved him. The comment section has been the exact same. I'm not touching him with a 20-foot pole. And then I talked about him in another video and someone said, you couldn't pay me to draft Deebo. Those both were the top liked comments on those videos. And I wonder what the pulse is now. People are starting to see him deployed in Washington. This has been one of my favorite players to draft all offseason. We're actively trading for him as well in leagues that we've already drafted. I hope people keep doubting him because of the weight, but on average, he's going as the 11th pick in the 7th round. Extremely affordable, very little risk, and it might lead to people not thinking about him as like a guy that they can afford to lose on the roster that you can go trade for. But remember, Washington is projected to be top 6 in points per game, first in offensive plays per game. I mean, let's be real. Deebo was not good last year, career low 10.2 points per game, but he fits this offense like a glove. This team in Washington is quick, high tempo, call the play, snap it, get the ball out of Jaden's hands, that type of flow. Let a guy dominate after the catch. No team had a higher percentage of no huddle offense than the Commanders did in 2024 at 62.4%, which is ridiculous. And in those no huddle plays, they're constantly looking for that quick, get it out of the ball into the playmaker's hands type of offense, out short to the right, to the left. That is perfect for Deebo Samuel. He had his flaws, but last year he was still one of the better yak threats, which is what Deebo's going to be in Washington. Last year, he was 3rd in yak per reception behind Marvin Mims and Jamison Williams, and he was tied for 5th in yak over expectation according to Next Gen Stats. They will use him everywhere in Washington. He's a perfect fit. Do not sleep on Mr. Deebo Samuel. Great fit and a great offense. Terry McLaurin, we're not sure what's going on there. He could be special again in 2025, used in the backfield, end rounds, through the air, on the goal line as a receiving threat. So, man, do not sleep on Deebo. And if I've helped you open your eyes to Deebo, great. Go trade for him. In 90% of leagues, nobody wants him. So maybe you're that 10% like me who does want Deebo Samuel. All right. Let's talk about a running back. Yes, this is a player that I drafted in the Flock League, but we're going to talk about Alvin Kamara. And you're probably listening and you're thinking, oh my gosh, all right, Alvin Kamara, this guy's old. Why are we talking about Kamara? This is boring. Sometimes those are the best picks in fantasy football, aka why I took Derrick Henry last year in the Flock League. Okay, Alvin Kamara has been perpetually underrated pretty much since 2023. By the way, last year, Kamara was priced as the RB17 in drafts. He was our official my guy at the running back spot. He proceeded to finish as the RB9 overall despite missing 3 games. This year, Alvin Kamara priced as the RB15. A lot of leagues RB16 because Hampton's drafted over him. But here's what's funny. His ADP this year, RB15. That will be his lowest points per game finish ever in a 7-year career. In fact, he has finished top 8 in points per game 7 out of the last 8 seasons. Top 3 in points per game in 2023, top 5 in points per game last year. Last year, in a terrible offense. I know they started off hot, but let's be so for real for a second. The Saints offense was not good for the majority of the season. And still, he averaged more points per game than Devon Achane and Jonathan Taylor and Josh Jacobs and Breece Hall and Bucky Irving, but he's being drafted significantly behind all of those names. And there's not a running back in this backfield that should scare you off of drafting Alvin Kamara. I mean, I like Kendre Miller just as much as the next guy, but let's be real. I mean, this offense is going to be built around Alvin Kamara. And it's not like you need some superstar quarterback to dump the ball off to Alvin Kamara. I mean, we're going to get at halftime 11 points and it will be disgusting. And then at the end of the game, you'll have 18 points, even if he doesn't score a touchdown because of the work he'll get in the air, specifically in PPR leagues. Now, here's the best part. If you go trade for Kamara right now, you don't even have to ride him for the entire season. Pause. Okay, I heard it too. But they have a great opening matchup in New Orleans. They face the Cardinals, the Niners, the Bills, and the Giants. Those are all great matchups in 2024. So Kamara could be off to a hot start, and then you could use him as a trade piece should you choose to go another direction. But I do think he's a great buy. Let me know what you guys think about all these buys in the comments section below. Drop a like to show some love. Subscribe if you haven't done so. Look, in my most recent best ball draft, I was able to target Kittle, my favorite tight end to trade for right now. I targeted him in round 5 of this 10-team best ball draft. I'm drafting over on FastDraft, by the way. The Rabbit is a 1 quarterback, 15 round start 8 tournament, $10 entry, $50,000 prize pool. Come draft with me. Download the FastDraft app. Use the promo code LAND. We're going to match your deposit up to $50, and then you're going to get my cheat sheet so you're ready to go for your fantasy drafts this year. But you know, these best ball tournaments are not meant to replace your home league. They're not meant to be something that's going to add extra time into your life. If you like drafting, all you do is you draft a team, you let it ride. There's no commitment in season. But I appreciate y'all watching the video. Do me a favor, again, hit the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Nothing but love. Draft with me every night this offseason on the FastDraft app, where there are over $250,000 in prizes waiting to be won. Getting started is easy. Download the FastDraft app, use the promo code LAND at signup to get your deposit match up to $50. That is 10 free drafts on us. And when you finish your first real money contest, I'll send you my 2025 rookie report and season rankings completely free. Check out the link in the pinned comment to start drafting today.